Hi, I'm Phyllis, southernfrugal.com. Today, or rather tonight, it's late, but we had our big meal today and we hadn't had any dessert, so I'm going to make some cherry dumplings. And this is, again, going to be just like my mother made. The cherries are red tart cherries packed in water. Now, you don't want to get the cherry pie filling. You have to get the tart cherries. And this was not the brand my mother used. They no longer make it, apparently. But I think I found those in our buy low grocery store, and I think they also have them in Walmart. But you need to make sure they're tart red cherries. So we've already got them in the pot. Let me turn this down so y'all can see. And it's a 14.5 ounce can. So to this, we're going to add 3/4 of a cup of sugar, just regular plain sugar. Alright, so that's 3/4 of a cup, or thereabouts. And to that, we're going to also add 2 tablespoons of butter. Just 2 tablespoons. And put them right in the pot. Now, I've got them on a medium now, but when we put the dumplings in, we want them to just be simmering. So we're going to go ahead and make the dumplings right now, too. So I've got about a tablespoon of shredded butter in my bowl here. And to that, first of all, I'm going to put on my glove. To that, I'm going to add 3/4 of a cup of white lily self-rising flour. You want to make sure you use self-rising flour for this. All right, so my butter's melting very nicely. I'm going to just stir these cherries, get that butter dissolved. Now, to the cherries, what you want to do is use all the liquid that's in the can and then add a half a can of water to this can and then dump it in. So that would be the whole can plus 1/2 can of water. All right. So now we've got the 1 tablespoon of shredded butter, and I'm going to add 3/4 of a cup of white lily self-rising flour. And I went ahead and put my gloves on because I found if I don't have the gloves on, when I have to cut the camera off, I have to wash my hands first. So you want to just squish that all up in there and kind of get it combined with that flour. Now, self-rising flour already has baking powder and salt in it, so you don't really have to add any more to the flour. Alright, so to this, we're going to start out and pour in about 1/4 of a cup of buttermilk. Because I don't think I've got half a cup here, but we're probably not going to need all that. And you do want to make sure that you're using whole milk buttermilk. And by the way, this you can purchase at Walmart. It is a really good buttermilk. So we're just going to mix that up. And what we're looking for is a wet dumpling. Just mix that all around. Now I need a touch more buttermilk. So that would be about 1/4 of a cup of buttermilk plus about 1 tablespoon. But it also depends on your flour. Just do that all around until it kind of all comes together. Just squish it between my fingers like that. And you see now it's still wet. And so I'm going to get that off the gloves here. Scrape it off. And there my dogs are barking as usual. It's almost like they hear the camera cut on and they start. Alright, now I'm going to take my glove off. And what we want to do is drop this by teaspoonful. And just, regular, this is actually a long teaspoon, into the cherries, which are now simmering. Can y'all tell they're just barely simmering? And in fact, I'm going to turn the burner down, not to medium low, but to just a notch past medium, a little bit lower, because I want it just simmering. All right, so we're just going to put these in the teaspoon like that and just drop them in, just like that. And these are wet dumplings. And you want to make them little bite-sized because they're going to kind of double their size once they start cooking. So we're just going to put all of this in, and I will leave this recipe right down below in the description. Just barely dropping them in. Now the dumplings are not sweet at all. In fact, my mother used to just basically use her dough, same dough that she used to make biscuits, only the nights that we were having this, which was about once a month, she would make a little extra of the biscuit dough. So that's really what this is. Now, she didn't use butter, she used Crisco, but I'm trying to be a little healthier and use the butter. Just keep dropping them in. And see, they're going to float on top of the cherries. And what we're after is a dumpling that is more dry on the inside. So when you put wet dumplings into a wet liquid, you then can have a dumpling that is more dry on the inside and doesn't, you know, get all gooey like. All right, so let me move y'all closer so you can see. All right, now, my mother made most of her meals, other than for Sunday, in about 30 minutes. Now, she worked rapidly in the kitchen and no one got in her way. So what she did with the dumplings is she would put these on first and then proceed with the rest of the meal. So I can't get my camera to stay right there. All right, so now we're going to put the lid on this, and remember I've got it a notch or so past medium, so it's not quite medium low, but it's just at a simmer. And the dumplings have already started getting bigger. So now we're going to put the lid on it. We're not going to raise the lid for 20 minutes. I'm going to set my timer for 20 minutes with them just barely simmering. Now, don't be tempted to look, because when you raise the lid, what happens is the dumplings are going to kind of shrink up and they might get gummy on the inside. So just make sure you don't take the lid off. They're not going to go anywhere. I mean, there's no need to look at them. They're going to cook, okay? So leave that lid on 20 minutes, and then we come back and they should be all ready. All right, we'll see y'all in 20 minutes. All right, we are back, and it's almost been 20 minutes, but I wanted to talk to y'all about something. I had a lady that made a comment and said she noticed I was using Old Bay seasoning, and I said I was allergic to black pepper, and this has black pepper in it, which it does. But what I have to do when I use it, and I don't use it often, I can never shake it like that, because what caused the allergic reaction was pepperine from black pepper that was in the air, and I inhaled it. Now, it's probably not even something you could see, okay? So when I use this, I have my fan on and I hold whatever it is that I'm going to put it in, take it out with a spoon, and I hold it there so until the pepper gets completely wet. Now, we do not own black pepper in the little box, nor do we have pepper shakers, nor will we ever. And the reason is real simple. I got anaphylaxis, and what that is your throat starts swelling shut on the inside. You probably wouldn't even notice it on the outside, but the inside. And what that means is you need to get to the emergency room like within minutes. Now, what happened with me, Mr. Bucky called an ambulance because I could not breathe, just a teeny little bit on one side. If I held my neck way up and sucked in real slow, and I was so depleted of oxygen I couldn't even move my arms or my legs. I was sitting in a chair, So the ambulance came and they gave me Benadryl, injectable Benadryl in the ambulance, and it worked. And so for the next 8 weeks, I was back and forth. Sometimes Mr. Bucky could get me there. Sometimes we would be able to get the Benadryl in me, because the other thing that happens is you can't swallow. Everything just stops in your throat. And so anyway, the lady that wrote that comment, I think, didn't realize how serious the anaphylaxis is. You can die from it in a very short time. So, of course, I was saved, and every time I had it and went in an ambulance, it was Benadryl, and sometimes they just stuck it in my arm right here, and just within just a very few, maybe a minute or two, your throat will start opening up, or at least mine did. But the other thing I had a reaction to, well, there were several things during an 8-week period, but the other thing that I had a reaction to was cherries, because I had made a fresh cherry pie. I sat there that afternoon, took all the seeds out, and made this cherry pie that was piled up really high. It was so good. But I also had 2 hot dogs that afternoon, because we were refinishing floors upstairs, and I started having a reaction, not the breathing, but my throat, everything started hurting, my stomach, my intestines, and it just progressively got worse. So finally, about 11 o'clock that night, Mr. Bucky took me to the emergency room. Now, I don't know what they gave me. The dumplings are done. Anyway, let me finish this first. So anyway, they told me to never eat cherries again, and don't eat any of the hot dogs again. And so the hot dog was a certain brand of hot dog, and I won't say which, but it's real popular. And they determined that the combination of the cherries, which are very caustic, they said, and probably the preservatives in the hot dogs was what caused my problem. To start with, they thought I had appendicitis, then they thought I had a gallbladder problem, and then finally I had to have a camera put down my throat all the way down and went into the small intestines, and they said I had what was equivalent to hives all the way down. So I'm not going to eat any of these cherries, and I guess y'all can see why now. But it's embarrassing to be allergic to stuff, because a lot of people say, oh, I can't eat that, I'm allergic. Oh, I'm allergic to this. There was no question what had caused my problem. I mean, between the hot dog and the cherries, it was one of the two, because I hadn't eaten anything else. So that had to have been what it was. And the same thing with the pepper. Now, one other time, I was making lentil soup. Mr. Bucky was still working back then. All this happened, it's been about 12 years ago now. And I had the Old Bay, and I was shaking it into the lentil soup. And all I did was turn around for some reason, and my throat, just like that, started closing. So I thought, well, I'm going to have to call an ambulance. And so I called 911, and thank the Lord, they had already taken me to the hospital a couple of other times, and they knew my phone number. I guess it comes up on their screen. I didn't know I couldn't talk, and I couldn't talk, and I was just holding the phone, and finally the lady said, is this Mrs. Stokes? Do you need an ambulance? And I couldn't even answer. I was going like this, but I couldn't speak. Of course, she couldn't hear me, and she said they'll be right there, and I'd say within probably 3 minutes or less they were here. And of course, it's the Benadryl. So what I do is carry the EpiPen, and I also carry injectable Benadryl with the needle and everything with me everywhere I go. And so anyway, but maybe I'll do a video about that, because it was pretty horrific. But I know now you have to know what you're allergic to. When you get anaphylaxis, you've got to know, and you have to be very, very careful. So what we do now, it's interesting that the Old Bay that's blackened does not have black pepper in it. It's got red pepper. Now, red pepper and black pepper are 2 different things. I am not allergic to red pepper, but my life using black pepper ended about 12 years ago, I can tell you. All right, let's look at the dumplings. And I just wanted to answer that, to try to answer that lady. I think I wrote her back, you know, in the comments, but, you know, I don't think, because she had said, well, I guess we'll see, since you're using Old Bay and it's got black pepper, and I guess we'll start seeing a black pepper in a shaker now. No, you won't. You won't. Anyway, it's the pepperine and black pepper was the problem. All right, let's look at these dumplings now. All right, there they are. Now we should have a little thickening in the juice in there. And so what I'm going to do is dip some of these out for Mr. Bucky, and I'll show you what they look like on the plate. We'll be right back. All right, here's what they look like on the plate. I'm going to cut one of these little dumplings into, Mr. Bucky won't mind, just to show you what they look like on the inside. See? They're kind of like a biscuit on the inside. What you do is just kind of cut them in two and let some of that juice run into them. Yeah, these are so good, y'all, and I do wish I could eat them. So these are for Mr. Bucky. All right, y'all, we will see y'all next time. Bye for now.